Hello everyone, this is Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a multi-state severe weather outbreak with some strong tornadoes, a snowstorm, and rains coming back for California. So welcome back everyone. This is your Thursday, December the 9th update. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button. If you value my content, I do daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. We got a lot to talk about. Let's first take a look at the water vapor imagery this morning of this powerful jet that's going to be coming across. This is the water vapor imagery. By the time we get into Friday night, that's going to set the stage for a severe weather outbreak that's initially going to start in East Texas, but swing all the way up until Indiana. And then we have a snowstorm on the backside. That's the colder side. So let's delve into the details. Let's take a look at the overall hazard map for this morning. This is our snowstorm that's going to be coming onshore with winter weather advisories into places in Nevada, into the higher terrain here, up into Utah. Salt Lake City is going to get into the action with some snowfall. We got very heavy snow, much welcome snows for ski resorts out there in Colorado here. But we got some snow into places like Wyoming and winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings, and to Nebraska, swinging all the way into Iowa and southern Minnesota, and then really kind of intensifying as it gets up into Wisconsin, where we got those high wind watches down to the south, where we got that strong upper level jet that's going to be coming across. And then those fog advisories this morning, you can see that the atmosphere is starting to turn over, getting ready for that severe weather outbreak that's going to unfold on Friday night. But first, let's take a look at the initial snowstorm that's going to be taking place, and we'll get into the severe weather threat in a couple of minutes. But yeah, by the time we get into Thursday night, we've got that developing snowstorm that's going to be impacting part of the Rockies with some heavy snowfall up here in the foothills. That'll also swing over into Wyoming. But as we get into later on to the day on Friday into the afternoon hours, that'll swing into portions of central and northern Nebraska here, as well as South Dakota. That'll eventually get into places like into Minnesota. As you can see, the atmosphere is starting to turn over down here into the south and the southeast, getting ready for our severe weather outbreak, just kind of waiting on that upper level jet that's going to be streaming across, and it's going to be having that energy to tap into, because we're got a lot of record heat that it's going to tap into. We're talking 46 record high temperatures by the time we get into Friday afternoon. Probably 85 in Dallas, low 90s in Texas. That is warm for December 10th standards. We're talking upwards to 25 to 30 degrees above average temperature. So there's plenty of fuel, and you can actually see where that cold front's going to lie by the time we get into Friday, with that snowstorm to the north and our severe weather threat down to the south. So with that snowstorm, by the time we get into Friday night, it's really going to be cranking up here into places into Nebraska, going into Iowa, into Minnesota, but especially into Wisconsin here, that we're going to be getting some heavy snowfall, a good 6 to 8 inch, if not 8 to 10, some places up to a foot of snow is not out of the question in places like into Wisconsin. But you can see down to the south, it's starting to get its act together with those thunderstorms starting to erupt basically east of Dallas, east of Oklahoma City. Everything's going to be east of that sector, but up to the north, we've got some higher wind gusts too. So it's going to be on the borderline of almost blizzard-like conditions as you get into portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin here, with wind gusts where that snow is going to fly upwards to 40 miles an hour at times. So there's definitely going to be borderline conditions with whiteout conditions in those areas of very heavy snow into Friday night. And they're definitely going to be shoveling snow for the Packer game coming up on Sunday versus the Bears. It won't be snowing still by then, but there's going to be a lot of snow on the ground they're going to have to be dealing with and shoveling it out. But because here's your snowfall swath that's going to be happening essentially from now all the way through going into Saturday So we got those heavier snows up here to the Rocky Mountains. We're talking upwards to 18 to 24 inches. It's definitely not out of the question. And some of the higher terrains, that is great for your ski lovers out there. They've been waiting for this. It's coming, guys, and that's going to leave a healthy snowpack in its wake. And then places like Denver could be looking at a little bit of snow. But it's really going to start getting its act together once it kind of moves across. We're talking a good swath of snow into Nebraska, going into South Dakota here, in the upper portions of Iowa, and as well as Minnesota. But it really starts to get cranking as we get into Wisconsin, where I do feel a good 8 to 10 inch swath. We're talking Green Bay probably could pick up about 10 inches from this system as this really starts to get its act together on a Friday night. But man, down to the south, the severe weather threat looks really nasty, guys. In fact, the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center has already elevated this up to an enhanced risk. So let's break this down. Let's really break this down, because this is going to be a nighttime event, unfortunately. So we're talking overnight and Friday night, and that's coming up. So we're talking anywhere from in the marginal risk zone. We'll break this down into Houston, going into Indianapolis, as well as Columbus, Ohio, St. Louis, as well as Cincinnati. What the marginal risk zone means is basically you're still susceptible to see the storms. You're just less likely to see the intensifying storms. But once you get into that slight risk zone, you're a little bit more higher probability of seeing that severe weather going into Lufkin, places like Shreveport, going into Lafayette, Kentucky here, as well as Little Rock, Arkansas, Jackson, Mississippi. All those areas will be under the gun for that slight risk, and then it just even intensifies once you get up into the Memphis, Tennessee area, Nashville, Tennessee, going into Clarksville, Tennessee. Especially, Tennessee is going to get clocked from this system into an overnight event going into Kentucky as well. So this is a dangerous setup, because this is coming in into the nighttime hours, and it's really dangerous because the tornado risk is high, and you can see the expansion of this. We're talking multi-state event, basically from East Texas all the way to Indiana, and then within this sector, this is the highest probability of seeing some tornadoes. There's going to be a lot of shear. These are going to be really fast moving systems. We're talking 30, 40, 50 miles an hour at times, even some higher than that. So these are going to be booking across. You're going to have little to no warning into an overnight threat. And we'll break down the timing from this. But this is what makes this system so dangerous, because it comes in into the overnight hours where most people are sleeping, and it's a nocturnal setup, and you can't see these things coming. So that's why you're going to have your weather radios handy, be weather aware, and be on high alert coming in on Friday night, especially if you live in this zone, essentially from Lufkin all the way up into Indiana. You need to be on high alert from this particular system that's coming on board, coming in on Friday night, because look at the significant tornado parameter index. It really starts to get cranking as we get into the midnight hour. I don't think this thing even just starts to get going until like 8, 9 o'clock, right? And so we're talking by midnight, we could be looking at some strong tornadoes kind of breaking out over portions of Louisiana, going into Arkansas, upper portions of Mississippi, upper portions of Alabama, going into western Tennessee, western Kentucky here, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. So you're going to be under the gun to seeing some of those tornadoes, and some of them could be on the strong side, because if you look at the low-level jet that's going to be coming in, look at the jet streak. It's very powerful system. There's going to be a lot of updrafts from this system. There's going to be a lot of shear with this system, fast-moving systems. You're going to be able to rotate. So that sets the stage for a dangerous setup, and especially when it comes in into the overnight hours. And let's take a look at the 850 millibars, because you can really depict on where the low-level jet is going to be setting up. You got the warm sector on the south side. I showed you the temperatures, what this energy is going to be tapping into. That's what makes this so dangerous. I mean, it's December, folks. This is not, it's not out of the question. You see some severe weather down to the south, but once you get further north, it's definitely more kind of a little bit rare into Tennessee and to Indiana, be talking severe weather this late in the game. because typically we're a lot colder than this. But when you see temperatures 25 to 30 degrees above average, this is what can happen in this type of atmosphere that we're in right now. And look at this. I mean, this really kind of zooms in. That's the 850 low. That is the deformation zone up to the north. That's going to be your snow event that's going to be taking place on the northern side. That's the colder side. But the south side, that's going to be the sharp gradient. That's going to be setting the stage for that fuel of severe weather. What is the deformation zone? Here is a graph that really depicts this. You got a strong cold front that's gonna be coming in. That's your dry side. So once the cold front moves through, you're dry, right? But it's on the right side, you got the warm belt, the warm sector out ahead of it, and that's gonna be fueling these. And as it goes over the top, that's the deformation zone. And where that demarcation line is, that is a separation from the cold air, the heavy snow, and to the south, you've got all the severe weather that's going to be taking place in the warm sector. You can really start to see on the setup by the time we get into 9 o'clock. So this is, let me kind of break this down on the latest 3K NAM kilometer model index here. By Friday night at 9 o'clock, we could be seeing some isolated supercell thunderstorms starting to break out into East Texas portions, say Shreveport, getting into Little Rock, Arkansas. There's sporadic storms into Tennessee, southern portions of Illinois, into southern portions of Indiana. But look at this. You can definitely see where the deformation zone is going to be, where that heavy snow is flying to the north in Iowa into Minnesota and gets really cranking right there in Wisconsin. That's why I feel like there's going to be on the verge of blizzard-like conditions at times, but very heavy snow is right here. So depending on where you live, I mean, you could be picking up 8 to 10 inches of snowfall, but then literally 30 miles, 50 miles to the south side, not much of anything. That is the deformation zone right there. And as it pulls in and as it continues to amplify, as that low-level jet comes in, we got storms starting to explode, really not until 1 o'clock in the morning, guys. So I know a lot of you guys are going to obviously be sleeping by then. But if you live in this area, you need to go to bed with one eye open and especially be on the lookout for supercell thunderstorms and having that weather radio handy of warnings and take all warnings seriously in this situation, because like I mentioned, you're going to have little to no warning with these supercell thunderstorms moving at upwards to 50 miles an hour at times. So those isolated cells are going to start to pop up. And then once it gets into that 4 o'clock in the morning time frame, you could be looking at a large swath. And I think that's when the multi-state severe weather outbreak starts to really kind of unfold. About 4 o'clock in the morning, really. This is an overnight in the wee hours of the morning event, coming in from Shreveport all the way in the northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama here, going into western Tennessee, western Kentucky, going into Indiana. So that is going to be under the gun for that severe weather threat, where that snow is continuing to fly up here into Wisconsin. And then as we get into Saturday morning, that 7 a.m. time frame, that continues to moving across, and it forms a solid squall line probably by then. And once it does that, the intensity level starts to come down with these systems. So when they're typically isolated, that's when you have the most significant severe threat. So they stay isolated for a good chunk of the evening. But once we get into the morning hours, into that 7 a.m. time frame, that's when I think they congeal into a solid squall line, and it transfers to more of a damaging wind threat by then, and it decreases the tornado threat and some of the hail threat that's going to be from this system. And that's why as we move into Saturday, the Storm Prediction Center right now just has a marginal risk for severe weather, because I do feel like once it congeals into a solid line, it's really going to take the severe weather threat down. So that's what it looks like currently right now. Obviously this could change as it gets closer to the event, as the evolution from that low-level jet comes across. But right now we're talking still a marginal risk setup into places like Houston and Philadelphia, going into Columbus, Baltimore, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina, New Orleans, all the way up to DC. So you're still going to be susceptible to seeing some of those strong to severe thunderstorms even on the day on Saturday. So as this system continues to move through, let's take a little glimpse at what may be in store for next week. So you can see by Monday, the 13th, it rapidly clears out of the backside. But now we're already looking off to the west because we have another developing trough that's going to be coming in. This one actually digs in a little bit further south. And what that means for California, you got some much needed rains coming back for not just Northern California, not just Central California. We're talking Southern California, guys. Yeah, we got some rains, some desperately needed rains coming in for a good chunk of California, especially into Southern California as we get into Monday, going into Tuesday. Some of these could be heavy. I mean, we're talking above average rainfall in California. So this is desperately needed. But it's going to set the stage for another rapid warm-up. So you see this rapid clearing in the midsection of the country. And again, we might be doing this all over again next week, because by the time we get into the 15th and the 16th time frame, you're talking Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Man, this is December, guys. I mean, come on. I mean, that's like 10 days to Christmas. 40 degrees above average in Iowa. That is some crazy stuff. So you can see when you get that elevated at any time of the year, and you got some, low level moisture coming in, you got a trough digging in, you got below average temperatures. What do you think is going to happen to the atmosphere as it taps into that energy? And then look, this might be a precursor, might be kind of a glimpse on where maybe another severe weather threat might be setting up for next week because of all that heat they're going to be tapping into. Another trough coming in. So right now, the Climate Prediction Center has a slight risk for heavy rainfall into East Texas, really a lot of the same places, right? Into Louisiana, Arkansas, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. We might be doing a deja vu event all over again. And this not until like the 17th and 19th time frame, but this just kind of gives you an idea of what may be to come for next week. And let's take a look at the overall rainfall totals for combined all the way through Tuesday going into Wednesday. So this is a snapshot of about 6 days time frame. You can see more or less the initial system. Like I mentioned, it doesn't really get its act together till it passes Oklahoma City, till it passes Dallas. They haven't seen much rain in Oklahoma City in a long time, right? You just miss these systems, but you may not miss the one next week. So the setup this week is just east of there, and then it really starts to get cranking into the southeast, up into the Ohio Valley. I already showed you the severe weather threat, but on the backside, man, look at all those rains coming on off the West Coast, and especially for California, where you desperately need the rain. And all the way in the Southern California, we're talking potentially multi-inch rains in parts of Southern California, guys. So that is definitely welcome needed. And even in the desert Southwest, you're still going to get into the action into Arizona, into Utah, where they desperately need it, in Colorado, getting into portions of New Mexico. So there's definitely some welcome needed rains setting the stage for coming in for next week in that region as well. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.